Best one yet. So guys, this is a strange time of year where there's not a lot of real active NFL activity. The guys have vacations and they'll get busy with many things. In terms of family, guys have been all over the country. Guys have been to the Fanatics thing like CJ Stroud. We've had players go to the Mediterranean like Miles Bryant. And I've seen some NFL players like Charles Omenihu, no longer a Texan, with the Kansas City Chiefs. Was at dinner in Austin. I went to David Mulugeta's great restaurant. Highly recommend the Guest House. And they also have that in Las Vegas. So yeah, a great spot to go to, and enjoyed it. One of those things where my wife and I were able to get away for a couple of days. And then today I was with some players. They were training. Keon Coleman, Matthew Golden, and former Texan Cam Akers, a good football player who did some good things for the Texans before they traded him to the Minnesota Vikings. So yeah, some guys out there working out with Justin Allen, one of the top trainers. He's been training Tank Dell. You guys have seen the videos of Tank doing his thing. So yeah, it's been interesting to watch everybody just kind of getting ready for the season. And I've had some questions. I'd like to address as many as possible as we add more to the chat and kind of get this thing rolling. So yeah, it's been, pretty fun in terms of everything. In terms of, the green screen. All right, so let's get going, guys, with some questions from the audience and make sure that everybody's kind of ready to go here. Make sure that everybody's kind of ready to go here. Make sure that everybody's kind of ready to go. Make sure that everybody's kind of ready. Sorry about that, guys. Just turn off my computer. Okay, here we go. Jim Davies. Yes, you want to know about split salaries. Split salary means if he, was to go on injured reserve or some other sort of reserve list, including, obviously, if he's on reserve suspended, then they would not owe him the entire $1.03 million for the injured reserve. Only half of the salary, $540,000. So that's why he only got that amount. And so it's kind of I interpret it as a vote of, we're wary about you. Remember, there's no guaranteed money in the contract, Jim. So it is a standard veteran minimum deal for a player that they're giving a second chance that many teams wouldn't have given a second chance to. I found out last week that the San Francisco 49ers general manager, John Lynch, and they run a similar scheme, obviously, with Robert Saleh, that they were interested. So the Texans weren't alone in this. I know also that the Green Bay Packers and their defense coordinator, they were looking into the possibility of Damon Arnett. He was, of course, Damon's coach at Ohio State. So there were some parallels there. There were some relationships, and that's why that happened. And thanks for putting up with the green screen. I didn't mean to do that. I pressed the wrong button, and it looks like we're okay now, so I'm just going to keep it going. Sarah wants to know, are the Texans looking to add any positions right now? Yes, possibly. Possibly not done at corner. I'm not at liberty to say which corner. I will just tell you guys, it is not Rasul Douglas, who has a standing offer from the Miami Dolphins, which is more expensive than what Ronald Darby was making. I don't believe they're going to do that. Hey, yay couch. Hi back. But yeah, no, to go back to Sarah's question, they are exploring cornerback. So, and it might not be exclusive, like they can't have Damon at another corner. So it could be more than one corner added to this roster. And I have a couple programming updates for you there with KPRC too. So Randy McElboy and I are going to discuss on Sunday, Sports Sunday, his weekly program. We're going to have another countdown to Texans training camp. And the topics include the red zone offense and the creativity I believe that Nick Caley can bring to the table with having the opportunity to hand the football off from C.J. Stroud to either Joe Mixon or Nick Chubb, or besides that power element of football, lob it to big 6'4" twin tower wide receivers Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins. So lots of good options in that red zone. And then I discussed a player that I consider, and DeMeco Ryans considers, so much improved from how he looked as a rookie. I thought he was a good rookie. That's Kate Stover, the tight end. So I anticipate an increased role for Cade. And you guys, just keep those questions coming. I can keep up with many as you guys have. And of course, though, this will be saved and people can replay it to if you missed the chat. But yeah, if you guys have a chance to, if you're out there, yeah, join the chat and I'll answer any and all questions. And today was fun. I even ran up a steep hill at the Buffalo Bayou, Allen Parkway area with some NFL guys. So that was fun for me, and had a good time with that. All right. Here we go. Next question. Is he getting better? Like, I haven't, obviously seen him since the last camp. I thought he did make progress. He only had the one false start, and I do expect him to challenge Blake Fisher. I just don't anticipate him taking out Cam Robinson for that job. So right now, just look for him to cross-train, and if either tackle gets injured, which hopefully that doesn't happen, hopefully no injuries, never want anyone to get hurt, or if their play isn't good enough, then Ursery, he's on deck. Thank you, Kip. Appreciate you. Any insight on what the players are saying about Nick Caley and the offense so far? They like the energy from him in terms of just the personality, the dynamic, let's go type of mentality, positive coaching. And then they like the pre-snap motion. They like the way that some plays are disguised. And you can't also just get a easy beat on what the offense is doing. So unpredictable. Seems like kind of like the anti-Slowick. Sorry, it's been the offseason of dunking on Bobby, but I have to tell the truth. And yeah, the players were disenchanted. I was told, and I did a report on this separate video, that Joe Mixon is getting ready for camp, that Joe is doing well. His mobility is good. He should be fine. I don't know about the first day. I mean, how important is that? What's important is the season. Remember, he missed some time with a quad last year during camp. And a lot of this does stem from the hip drop tackles, those illegal tackles. That's how he got hurt last year. Yeah, they practiced up there. They went to Canada. They did that. That Jared Wayne is from the Ontario area and then went to Pitt, but he's a Canadian and he's someone that's had a really good offseason. The lights kind of clicking on. I know that people are, know Jared for the injury, unfortunately, accident with him and Tank Dell, but he's a great guy. He was actually my neighbor for a while, lived very close to me here in Upper Kirby River Oaks area. Good guy, and he has had just a more explosive offseason. He looks like he's more of a field stretcher, and I don't know about a roster spot, but he's done everything he should be doing. But yeah, not a lot of photos. One thing I would say about offseason, these guys, they work out, and then they don't really invite. I get to go to some NFL workouts with guys, and I was at one today that I was invited to by Justin Allen, and no Texans, just Cam Akers, Keon Coleman, and Matthew Golden. I've had the last couple of days I've been with Golden. I even asked Matthew at the event at Dick's Sporting Goods about how close he thought to becoming a Texan. He thought, well, you just never know the draft process, and I can tell you that they had a lot of interest in him, and he's someone that I think is going to be an excellent player for the Green Bay Packers. Damon wants to know if Nick Chubb is showing that he's back to 80% or better. How do you split the backfield? I still think the bell cow is Mixon with somewhere, in the 18 to 22 carries, but I could see 7 to 10 carries for a Nick Chubb. We were just talking about Joe Mixon. He'll be ready, I believe, during training camp. I don't know about the first day. I don't want to make a prediction because they could hold him back just because he's missed a lot of time. They might want to, give him some time. Hey, Bonnie, yep, no one can wait till football. It's going to be great when that happens. And Justin, yeah, he's a big, strong guy. Jim wants to know about Moose Johnston, who runs the UFL, and if there's any news in the future of the Roughnecks. I was with, some of the players like Leon O'Neal, and there has been a lot of chatter. There was nothing definitive about what they're going to do. I heard some bad rumors on Memphis, but they were pleased, they said, the league, about some support for the Roughnecks still. They just noted it's very tough, and they don't have the same support that they have in St. Louis and San Antonio. I agree. I think Chubb will do a good job. And this gentleman, Keskase, thinks that Titus Howard's the most underrated player. Not the best player, underappreciated by the fans. I'm keeping an eye on him. Yeah, I agree. Titus does not get a lot of love sometimes from the fans. Titus is a hardworking, tough football player, a good guy, good family man, and I have a lot of respect for Titus. I've known him since 2018, so I've known him a long time. And so we go back. And I've always felt Titus, very, very solid dude. Okay. Additional oversight rule that Pop has with the run game coordinator. Okay, great question. So, Jay, they work in tandem, him and Nick Caley, and they speak the same language because they learned this from Josh McDaniels, Bill Belichick, Dante Scarnecchia, and a guy named Ivan Fears. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ivan. Really good running backs coach that worked with New England for all those Super Bowl teams. And, yeah, they believe in power football. Think LeGarrette Blount. Remember when LeGarrette Blount scored all those touchdowns? This is the kind of football that Cole Popovich is all about. And he is going to have a hand in building the run game portion of the game plan as well as the protections and all those things. I think that coaches have some confidence in the line. They obviously didn't like what happened last year. They like the direction it's going in. Confident in the direction, wait and see on the production. But yeah, guardedly optimistic, absolutely. I still think that Mechie, it's not out of the question he makes the team, but I think it would be better for John to be traded or cut and have a fresh start. That's my opinion. It's not only my opinion too, it's other people's opinion too that care about John Mechie. Know John Mechie very well from his Alabama days, etc. Updates on the new facility location. No, there's been some rumors about Sugar Land, Missouri City. I've heard a little bit about that. Nothing that I've felt comfortable reporting. It wasn't anyone that was directly involved. I've heard about some talk about people touring facilities, things like that. But yeah, nothing concrete. And I want to just reiterate this about a couple things on stadium and facility. Stadium. They will play at NRG Stadium this year. I believe they'll play there next year. And for many, many years to come. They'll refurbish this facility. They'll reach a deal. They have years and years left on the lease too. And on the facility, it would be a goal to try to get in there in the next year or two. And I don't believe they would break ground necessarily. So they'll be there at NRG this year. Kip wants to know about Tank Dell. I was just with Tank Dell, and I can tell you that I expect him to miss the season still because I don't think it makes sense for him to play. I think that that's accepted. They just don't want to make that announcement. But he's doing a great job. He is able to run. He's able to jump. He's able to push weighted sleds. He's doing a lot of great things, making excellent progress. He will play football again, I believe, and play well. But 2025 does not make sense. It is too soon from this serious of an injury, and they have lots of wide receivers. They do not need Tank to play. Might he get to a point in December or January where they're tempted? Sure. I don't think it makes any sense. I don't think anyone's going to take any risks with Tank. He's been through too much. They like Chubb, Cedric. They think Chubb is a good downhill guy. They hit the holes well, picked up the offense, really looked like a polished pro. Damon wants to know about Jake Andrews. Does he have the inside track to start at center? I don't think it's just because of familiarity with the system. No, I think that he has this long background with Cole Popovich, this trust. He was obviously a highly regarded player coming from a small college to be drafted in the 4th round. And he was highly decorated at Troy. With New England, he was not a healthy football player. So the Achilles heel for Jake is his health. And if that comes up again, there is confidence in Jared Patterson, a good technician, a smart player, good at making the line calls to step in again. They won a lot of games with Jared Patterson playing center. But yeah, right now I think Jake Andrews, it wasn't just an accident that he was out there or just like, let's let him, he knows the system better. No, it's because they're looking at him and considering him for the starting job. No, Sarah, there's some rumors about Tim Settle Jr. I think right now it's going to play out and they're going to see what happens, how the season's going, if that's going to happen before free agency or if he's going to go to free agency. A late round draft pick for a potential John Mechie trade, 5th round or lower. You're welcome, Patty. A great question about, as a reporter, do I have a different approach or expectations interviewing players based on their position? I do tend to feel like with skill players, a lot of it does have to do with their role. When it comes to certain positions where it's a collective, like the offensive line, it may not be as individualized about their performance. It might just be the line as a whole, how they communicate, how they think things are going, and their confidence in the blocking schemes, things that they approach, the matchups with players that they play against, those sort of things. So that's how I approach it, and I do try to be somewhat team-oriented about certain positions when it comes to the offensive line, the defensive line, the secondary as a whole. And if I'm doing an individual feature, I think it's, then you want to be more centralized on that player and their expectations. I have no idea, Cassia, where Mechie would go. I would just have to look at a bunch of depth charts to see who's thin at receiver. I haven't heard anything yet. I'm just telling you, and I'm not reporting just for anyone out there that he will be traded. I'm saying I think it will be a good idea with the addition of so many receivers for John Mechie to have a fresh start. That's just my opinion. And not only my opinion, other people's opinion as well. Let's see. We talked about that, Matt. They are getting some growing confidence in the offensive line group from the coaching staff. And 2-back formations. Yeah, I could see split backs. I could see them doing that. I don't think it's going to do it a ton, though. And I think there's also going to be some I formation deals with Jacob Johnson, good lead blocker. Remember, they did that with James Devlin, who Nick Haley was his position coach with the Patriots. So maybe some old school power I football. First time attending training camp, any advice? Definitely hydrate. Sunscreen. I would recommend a hat. I would recommend maybe bring a towel. I would take some breaks from the heat if you are uncovered, if you're out there in the sun. There are a lot of covered areas and there's chances to take a break. I would just pace yourself. If you need to get autographs, especially if you have young people with you, I would recommend lining up early and then just, be courteous, ask politely for a player for their autograph if you want that, and just soak it up. Enjoy it. As far as looking out for, I would recommend just kind of scanning the field, looking at the positional drills, and then when they do the 11 on 11, it's fun to watch the matchups, the receivers against the corners, and who wins these one-on-ones. There's also a period of practice where they do one-on-ones, so guys run routes against each other. The offense, of course, has the advantage because there's no pass rush, and I wouldn't be alarmed by any defensive guys getting beaten, including Derek Stingley. Everybody gets beat in the one-on-ones. The receivers have the advantage. Did anyone still trust Bill O'Brien before he got fired, as far as you know? Yeah, he had faith from the locker room. He had some players that liked him. He had some guys in the building that liked him. He no longer had the faith of the people that matter, the McNair family, and they moved on. And that was why, ultimately, B.O.B. Was a little bit rough and tumble behind the scenes, and I think that kind of was underreported by some of us, we did mention some incidents. There were some times where he would yell at people when they were fired, cuss at them. There were some physical altercations that went on, including with Brock Osweiler, where they got a little rough with people. B.O.B., like they called him, stovepot or teapot, because his temper would bubble over. Yeah, he had a bad temper. I could see Nick. I think Nick certainly, Casario, that she's asking about, Sarah, could he get a new contract? Yes, I could see it. I think that there's been some talk around the league about that being a likelihood, not a will they do it. I think that it's something they could do. I don't think there's any rush, but I think that he's definitely earned it. He's done a great job with the Texans, and it would not surprise me if it was done in this offseason or if it was done in the offseason to come. Brandon, maybe a little more information about that, about C.J. Gardner-Johnson's opinion. I'd like to just see if you're asking me a question. Thank you. Damon agrees with Mechie needs a fresh start. I was addressing that. I think no contract extension before the season starts. I think Tim Settle Jr. is a candidate, maybe at some point, but not right now. Question about Kalen Bullock. I thought he looked good at the minicamp. Certainly moves well. Has put on a little bit of muscle. He's never going to be a big, strong, filled-out guy, but he's got great mobility. Remember, he played some corner in the past at USC. His range, his instincts, that's why you have him out there. You don't have him out there to be a extra linebacker. I like Justin Watson. Yeah, he made one comment about Justin. He thought Justin was doing a good job. They did a 2-year deal with him. That gives him some security. There's some guaranteed money in the contract. As far as impact, I think he's likely to make the team. But when we talk about impact, and I always remind people of this, and I'm not, being negative or being a hater. I'm just telling you, just think about how many targets there are, and how few targets go to the 4th and the 5th and the 6th receiver. They play if someone's hurt. So we're talking about guys that might catch 15, 20 passes sometimes in these roles. So it's not, I know there's always this obsession like, let's competition. Guys, Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, all those guys, they got to get the football. And of course, looking at, the offense, how they go about it strategically, there's just not enough passes to go around. A lot of people talk about lots of things. Christian Kirk obviously is going to be number 2 receiver, possibly, or maybe Higgins falls into that. But I anticipate those guys getting the lion's share of the targets. Falling behind a little bit here. Hi to Johannes. Wants Mechie's 8. Yeah. He says he's accepted being 23. I had a longer interview. I think the only big interview he's done, he's had a couple of lives where he talks about things that he's interested in discussing. But yeah, he said that he feels like a lot of great players like Michael Jordan have had number 23. Jalen Noel just had a minor soft tissue injury. I get a lot of questions about this. Guys sometimes miss practice. There is no injury report. It's just, I was told it was minor, and I think he's going to be ready for training camp. Yeah, I understand, Damon. But, it's hard for me just to predict injuries. Like, okay, well, he's going to get hurt. I know he's going to miss 5 games. You just don't know. You have to have good depth, obviously, but at the same time, for me to predict roles and just say, well, I think he'll play 7 games, he's going to have a ton of catches. Someone people don't talk about enough, and I think he's really improved, is Xavier Hutchinson. Hutchinson's done a good job, and I can see Hutchinson having a solid backup role. I think Chris Blanco earned the promotion. Chris has been a good addition. He helps them more on the pro side. And also James Lipford. They were both promoted to assistant general manager. Lipford's been here continuously longer, but Blanco was with the previous regime. And Blanco's risen in the ranks. He's been through a lot of the NFL programs. He's had that time with the Vikings to broaden his horizons. Lipford, I would say, is like the right-hand man to Nick Casario in the personnel department, and both guys have their strengths. I would say Lip, very college-oriented, but he's Also been involved in other things, including the Damon Arnett acquisition. So yeah, just someone that will also get involved in organizing the workout. So you had the Keenan Isaac, Duke Shelley, and Damon Arnett workout, and Damon wound up winning the audition and getting signed to that 1-year, $1.03 million deal. CJ likes the offense. Yeah, CJ is a fan of the new offense, and he likes the freedom, the autonomy to be the guy and to run things. I think that's really, really helpful for him to get a chance to have that opportunity to really run the show, as he says. So I think that's good. We got a message retracted from Tristan. Okay. I was asked this question. Yeah, I don't know who would want Mechie or Dameon Pierce. You know, you really have to go through like what teams don't feel comfortable when they get to training camp that they have enough depth at those positions, running back or wide receiver. But no, and sometimes, John, I'm going to just tell everybody this. If I don't know the answer to a question or it's something that's kind of unanswerable, I will just tell you that. I don't know. I like to be very honest with you guys, and I don't like to pretend I have every single answer up here. I have a lot of information, and some things I'll say, some things I don't. I'm not holding back. I just don't know. Hey, welcome back, Tristan. I could see that happening. Yeah, he's got the slot ability, but so does Kirk. So, you know, I think that one thing to remember about the Patriots offense is, remember there would be more than one slot. There'd be a Julian Edelman and a Danny Amendola. This could be that kind of offense where you have more than one slot on the field. And slots can play outside. I don't know if Jalen Noel has to be typecast only as a slot. Remember, he runs a 4.39 as a 42-inch vertical leap. He is an outstanding athlete. He can play out there on the perimeter, out there outside the hash marks too. But yeah, I think he's a perfect slot, and I think he's going to do a good job for them. I'm told that Christian is on track for training camp, yes, from the calf injury. And he's been training and working hard. Something that I think in the past has affected him has been overtraining. And he's just very lean, and it's not, he does everything right, but you know, sometimes when you're that vascular, you tend to be a little tighter in the muscles. If you ever look at Christian and how he has essentially a really low body fat percentage, and sometimes that leads to tight muscles or strained muscles, and that's what's happened to Christian. Yep, I think he can have a big role in the offense. That's why the contract's so big, up to $5 million. That's why they do that. They feel like, you know, they wanted to have that real good insurance policy. Also, you know, Joe's missed some time, and Joe's has had this history of high ankle sprains. These hip drop tackles have taken a toll on him over the past year. He's still had a great season. He made the Pro Bowl, but I would say with, you know, everything with Chubb, he's a great insurance policy, and I think he'll also have a good role. You know, question about the tight end position. I think that Dalton Schultz really needs to have a resurgent season to be back for the third year. He needs to play a lot better. He needs to be healthier. He needs to catch the football more consistently. I feel very good about the progress of Cade Stover. That's something we'll tease. We'll have some conversation between me and Randy McElboy on Sports Sunday, KPRC2. Please check it out. And, of course, I have some articles in the works at www.clicktohouston.com. I fell a little bit behind. I was out of town, just full disclosure, for a couple of days. I was in Austin, and this is the month 5 years ago that my wife and I got married, so we're kind of celebrating our anniversary a little earlier. We'll probably have a dinner, things like that, get a little personal for the moment. But, yeah, so just sometimes I have to recharge a little bit. So that's kind of what. We'll have some more coverage coming, though. No, they have not looked at George Fant. No, I do not expect George Fant to be coming back at all. Oh, yeah, Cal's Cookout. Yeah, I think that was fun. I've had a Cal burger before, I think every year. And, yeah, people enjoy that. I'm sure they'll have that again. Okay. Great question about what he means by game plan offense. Meaning you change the game plan. You don't just run what you think you do best. You change the game plan based on strategic, standpoints of what would be effective against that particular team, or they know that we'll do this, we're going to counter with something else. Really trying to play a chess match every week. And that's what they did in New England with Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels, and of course with Bill Belichick, who had a much larger hand in the offense than people realize. He was very intimately involved in the offense too, and meeting with Brady all the time. So yeah, I think it's a situation where you look at the game plan and you don't just say, we're running this, we're going to run the ball 30 times. You might run the ball a bunch one week, and next week you might run it less. You might throw it a lot. You might throw outside, you might throw inside. You change based on the team that you're playing. With Dameon Pierce, yeah, he's a reserve running back. He's obviously not the number 2 back with the addition of Nick Chubb, and he's the kickoff returner. So I think that's one of the reasons why, yeah, you have, a different role for the Dameon Pierce with Nick Chubb's addition. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's thanks a lot, guys, for happy anniversaries. Yeah, it's just a really lucky guy, very, very fortunate, and my wife Shannon. Shout out to Shannon, and Shannon makes my thumbnails. I've given her some props before, so she makes the thumbnails for these. So that's all her, and trying to help me with becoming more technologically proficient and to get better at this. Last week I was trying to push the button. I'm like, where's the live button? And just trying to get it figured out. The first week, I didn't know about the vertical that's supposed to be vertical, because everyone's told me horizontal for videos for YouTube. I should have tried to have these a while ago. I feel that way also about videos from last season, because I was sort of phobic about, I just want to post the player videos, and these people, they do want to hear more and they want to be more interactive. So yeah, I'm enjoying it and more comfortable now, but there's so many really great people that do this, in this market and around the country, and yeah, I'm just doing my best. And this is my YouTube, my style, and we are close to 10,000. We're at 9,700 tonight, so hopefully we can get the last 300, get to 10,000, and maybe even more before training camp begins. And we'll keep these going. Oh, you're welcome. Welcome from Colorado, Super Serial. Enjoy, and be careful out there in the National Forest. That's a great country out there in Colorado. Love Colorado. Tristan wants to know, can the offense spread to tire out the DBs and then go round and round with Mixon and Chubb? Yeah, you do that. You can loosen up the defense. You can pass to set up the run. Both ways. What's up, Ronald? How you guys doing? Exactly, Dustin. Yeah, the idea is to, really make this a thinking man's offense. I think sometimes it was just like stubborn last year. You just run it right into a stacked line, and they tackle you. And the Detroit game was, to me, so emblematic of that. The failure of the offense. If I had to think of one game that really annoyed me just as an observer, I don't have a real vested interest in anything, but I don't like to watch stubborn or bad football. It was that game plan. Didn't like what I was seeing. Thought that was pretty nasty. And it was a depleted Lions defense, and they still couldn't handle it. I thought that was an example of the failures of the offense. Technology, absolutely. Damon, I've said this a couple times. Rasul Douglas, it's okay, no need for an apology. I'll reiterate. Rasul Douglas has a standing offer from the Miami Dolphins, which is in excess, I'm told, per sources, of the deal that Ronald Darby had, which was 1 year, $2.5 million. I think eventually he becomes a Miami Dolphin, just a matter of time for that negotiation to percolate. But no, they haven't shown any interest in Rasul Douglas. And he was here before. He was cut very quickly, a couple regimes ago. Didn't stick around training camp. He can play, and he also trains here in Houston. Maybe that doesn't mean anything. I don't anticipate Rasul Douglas. There's another corner, and I haven't said his name, but it's out there that there's some ongoing conversations with. It's not the biggest of names. Jimmy Ward, you guys probably saw, has a initial court date assigned of August 13th. In the meantime, and this is more because this is his baby's mother, there is, Juan is referring, of course, to the domestic violence felony, third-degree felony case that's active out in Montgomery County. And yeah, Jimmy Ward is free on bail. There was going to be in this month an update on just matters regarding the child, their son that they have together. And so this is not really, in my opinion, something that bears an article about who's got custody and visitation and all those sorts of things. But the domestic violence is involving the allegation. It is an allegation. This has not been. He's innocent until proven guilty, and this is a very serious legal matter. I take these matters seriously, as does KPRC too. We will not be naming the victim, the accuser of Jimmy Ward, but there is some information. There'll be some filings. There's been some comments from his attorney, Steve Jackson. He said to withhold judgment, reserve judgment, and to give the benefit of the doubt. He's predicted that Jimmy will be vindicated. So he'll have his day in court, and we have to just wait. But it's during the middle of training camp, August 13th, and I don't know if he'll be out there playing while this case is pending. I would tend to think no, but we'll see what the Texans, how they decide to go about it. He's also coming off foot surgery. Would he even have been healthy enough to practice at this point? All up in the air for Jimmy Ward. Unfortunate situation, and we'll see what happens. I don't like to predict the outcomes of legal things. This is, just such a serious matter. We're talking about felonies, and he's been accused of attempting to strangle her. So that's quite an accusation, and I think it's a he said, she said. Don't know if there's any video. Haven't heard about injuries. Haven't heard anything from the police. There's a very limited amount of information in the incident report that I reviewed. I also watched the bail hearing and had access to that, and just watched Jimmy, very briefly make an appearance before the judge and the assistant district attorney made their case. It was a very quick appearance. Thank you so much on congratulations. Yeah, absolutely. 5 great years, so many more to come. And learning curve for Kaylee, yeah, it might be a tough opener. You never know. They know him so well. They know all of his tendencies. They probably know what to throw at him. So that might be a tough one against the Rams. But I think that he'll get better. I think he's a real student of the game. And I've said this before, all the conversations I've had about Kaylee with folks from the collegiate level to other teams, talking to Sean McVay about him, there's a lot of confidence. And they're not just going to say nice things because they like him. They're saying it because they sincerely believe in it. I've never had a chance to ask Aziz Al-Shire about it, but Nick Haley was his recruiter at Florida Atlantic, and he really got to know him very well, and his unique family situation, because the family was homeless and living all packed into a single hotel room, and he was embarrassed about that. He wanted to meet with Kaylee off-site, and Kaylee accommodated all of that, wound up signing him to the scholarship at Florida Atlantic, and the rest is history. He's their team captain of the defense. Well, with training camp, it's not just about who's lining up with the first team. It's the reps, it's the snaps, all of those things, and the rotation. And you can kind of tell who's pushing for a role and who's not. Oh, yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Take off of me. I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm having a good summer. I need to just get myself ready for camp. I'm not playing football. I think I could use a few more conditioning sessions. Coming off a little very short vacation, a little trip to Austin, and had a great time, and now I'm trying to get myself back into a football mode. So I think this conversation that we're having today, this helps focus me. Appreciate it. Yes, absolutely. Let's get me ready. You think about, the defense and the offense and the balance that you're talking about. You have a chance there with an elite defense. If the offense becomes very good, I don't know if it's going to be great, but very good, it is a potential Super Bowl formula. But health, obviously, is a giant factor in that. You got to stay healthy, too. Sometimes being healthy means more than flexible and hardworking. It's good luck. Do I think they win that game against Detroit? Great question. his career trajectory, how much did he learn this past year? It's hard for me to know if he was ready like a year ago, or did he get ready this year to be a coordinator. And with the offensive line, obviously they would have had to make a lot of changes. And I think the biggest difference is the Popovich promotion and the Chris Strausser ouster, kicking out Strausser and promoting from within with Popovich. And Popovich was being groomed to be the successor to Dante Scarnecchia. His career got off track. As you guys have heard me say before, he, personal choice, didn't want to do the COVID vaccine. He's never talked about that, but that's the reason why. And then he coached high school football, then coached at Troy University, and then got this second chance to come back to the NFL because of Nick Caserio and just being highly qualified. So yeah, that's kind of how he got back there. But yeah, to get back to the Lions game, I mean, if they just played even a decent game on offense and capitalized on all of those turnovers, they could have won the game. But yeah, I think that game is very discouraging indeed. But it's over. No fly zone. Well, it's hard to throw in the secondary. Absolutely. Well said. They don't show the whole offense exactly. And some of these plays, they run it in the bubble. They have install, and then they don't show every single play. We're also, from a strategy standpoint, there are some rules about what we can do. The cameras are off after usually individual drills. So there's never any film of the 11. And if you watch the team videos, those are ISOs when they show that. They don't show the play, like the end zone copy. You're not going to see this guy motion to the slot and then they throw it back the other way. They're not going to show you that. Why? Because you're helping the other team potentially. People can watch these highlights. People can read these tweets. There needs to be some secrecy, but yeah, Damon, they don't show every single thing, and there always are plays, absolutely, that we don't know about. Sometimes there's fakes and things like that I might be aware of, but no reporter that's a beat reporter and there every day would ever do that and break that trust that they allow for you to come to practice. Going to practice is not a right, it's a privilege, and so those of us that cover the NFL for a long time, we understand that. And so I've covered other teams. I've covered the Tom Coughlin Jacksonville Jaguars. I covered the Jeff Fisher Titans. I covered the Brian Billick and John Harbaugh Baltimore Ravens. And so it's always the same. There's some things that you know that you don't say. And so I don't come here on the live and tell you everything I know. And I obviously have to keep, some secrecy and some trust and all of those things. So I'm very selective sometimes about what I'll say, because ultimately relationships are the most important thing in this business. And I mean, I'm never reporting anything. Of course, I report some things about injuries and lineups and contracts and what I deem to be news. But some things to me are family business, and they keep it within. And just you need to have good judgment. I would say if you're going to be a really really good NFL reporter, you need to have good judgment, and you're always trying to really weigh decisions. What decision do you make on what to report, what not to report, all those things. Thanks, Damon. I appreciate it. Happy anniversary to you. 33 years. Mazel tov. Great job. 33 years. I think they'll have a starting offensive line, barring some sort of injury or lack of performance, before the first game. I think that it's very possible we've already seen the first team offensive line for the Rams game. But we'll see. It's obviously, that's why we'll go to the camp. We'll be watching that to see if someone else emerges. But yeah, those are the front runners for the starting jobs. The reputation of the Texans from journalists, and the Texans are respected. The Texans are viewed as, when I talk to other teams, they feel like, hey, they've got a good team. I talk to head coaches, I talk to general managers, I talk to owners. Other journalists say, hey, you got a good squad. Be interesting to see how they develop. There's a lot of wait and see with the Texans regard to the playoffs. But yeah, the Texans are viewed as one of the better teams in the AFC. They're certainly not a Super Bowl favorite, and that's because they're in the same conference with the Bills and the Ravens and the Chiefs, and they've got to beat those kind of teams to be thought of differently, to change the narrative. The 0-6 all time, that looms large. The failure in the divisional round. An update on Isaiah Bond. I do have a little bit of information on Isaiah Bond. Isaiah has a team, I can't name them, that is kind of a handshake deal. If he is able to get a good legal outcome, there are some things going on behind the scenes in regards to his sexual assault case that could lead to him joining a team sooner rather than later, but not the Texans. To answer H-Town's question, Isaiah Bond, the Texans wide receiver. There are some people around the league that were not happy about the Jaden Higgins fully guaranteed contract, and so there are a lot of second rounders that want that same contract. And Athletes First actually represents the next 3 picks that follow. I think they're all going to hold the line trying to get the 100% guaranteed. Where I think the 100% guarantee might end, if it doesn't end with those guys, with one of those, would be Travion Henderson, which is a different representation. The New England Patriots representation meaning the agent. So what I think will happen is, once some of these dominoes start to fall, you'll get closer and closer to the Ursary deal. What some of these guys might want to do, and I heard an agent tell me this today, they should ask for 100% injury guarantee and then similar guarantees in terms of skill and cap, the other aspects of guarantees, but ask for 100% injury guarantee, maybe that gets it done. But yeah, the Texans did set a precedent, and it's not the first time they've set a precedent. I have had people say, hey, what are they doing? Why did they do that? And they were angry about it. So there have been, general managers that have let me know that. But as far as, what that does, people still do business with the Texans. The Texans are respected. They have friends all over the NFL. Things happen, they get deals done. You see all those trades. So if it was impacting Nick's ability to make trades because people are upset about his rookie deals, that wouldn't make any sense. So obviously trades need to make sense, and I think that is why there's people are upset about precedents, and of course you saw the collusion case and how that went. But yeah, in my opinion, I don't think it's it's a testament to basically that Higgins is sort of their first round draft pick, if you will, the equivalent this year. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Lights Out Cuts. Appreciate it. Can you beat the Ravens and the Chiefs with the second half adjustments? Certainly, yeah. I mean, they were not uncompetitive in the past against the Chiefs. They were uncompetitive against the Ravens the last time out. I think it can certainly be closer against the Ravens, and no game is, how it's going to be every single game. There's variations of performance, of personnel, but they have some ground to make up against the Ravens. Kaylee can be a difference maker, a bit of an equalizer. Whether they win, I can't say. We were just discussing the Stingray, the Ursary rookie deal. They need some other ones to get done, but I think all these ones will be done very close to training camp. A lot of people are on vacation. There really is nothing lost. He practiced every practice. This isn't like the Shamar Stewart situation with the Bengals. He's just, waiting to see how much of his contract can be guaranteed based on this precedent that was set. So the reason he's unsigned is because most of the second round is unsigned. And as some of these dominoes start to fall with some deals at the top, once these negotiations resume in the next few weeks, then there's a better chance of Ursary signing his contract. But we already know what it'll be in the slot and all those things. It's about percentage of guarantees. And his agency, which is Clutch Sports, they do a great job. They do a lot of business with the Texans, including Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. and Christian Kirk. And I anticipate eventually Ursary signing his rookie deal. So as far as when, it could be like the day before training camp, possibly, with the pace of this. This doesn't change anything. He has a playbook. He practiced under a participation agreement, and he's training for the season. It's just a loose end, but it doesn't affect anything with him from a football standpoint. It's not a distraction. It's just not a big deal. And I understand everybody's like, well, why can't he just sign? Because he needs to protect himself contractually, and there's no reason for him to sign, some deal that's lesser than what he could get. It's not about the money, it's about the percentage of guarantees. And some of this too for these agents, if they cave and do a deal that's considered bad in the marketplace, that will be used against them in recruiting. And you say, well, I don't care about the agents. I only care about Urster getting signed. I understand that sentiment from a team fan standpoint. But yeah, these guys have to work in this industry. And so they have a job to do, just like the journalists have a job to do, and the team has a job to do, and the player. It'll happen. I'm not worried about it at all. I'm surprised that it's become like kind of a topic. Maybe I should do a video about it, kind of explaining that, getting more in depth about it. But if you guys think that's a good video, let me know. I would be happy to break that down a little bit, explaining the logjam of the second round. But that's kind of my Cliff Notes version of it. In terms of explosiveness with the offense, I think they won't be afraid to go vertical. You saw that with the Rams. They throw deep quite a bit to Puka Nacua. Some of these routes are beyond intermediate. They go deep sometimes, and they have some more speed than Nacua in this offense. I think that could happen. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are great players for Tristan for him to practice against. So that helps Ariante Ursary. It's a proving ground out there because you have two blue chip edge rushers in Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. I was surprised we didn't get more traction for my longer video about them and my belief that they are the best edge rusher tandem. But those that did view, I appreciate you. I think we got to about 1,500 views. So thank you for watching that. And everybody that watched the Joe Mixon video and my videos that I do with Randy McElvoy. Randy's on YouTube, by the way. Check out Randy McElvoy on YouTube. You just search for Randy McElvoy's name, and I believe it's called McElvoy TV or at Randy McElvoy TV. So yeah, give Randy a follow. Yeah, Randy's joined YouTube. So look for bonus content from Randy McElvoy on YouTube. He's just getting started. So yeah, please support Randy's channel, my friend and colleague from KPRC, and I appreciate everybody at KPRC. Just really great people to work with. Did an assignment today with Ari Alexander. We were out there on a hill. We both ran up the hill. Thankfully, I don't think there's any video of me and Ari running up the hill. We didn't race the NFL players. We just kind of, after they ran up, we ran up, and then mostly we videoed them. But we're huffing and puffing, ran up this hill right before it rained. We had pretty heavy rain today in Houston, but it was fun to get out in the Buffalo Bayou area and go up a steep hill. And it's challenging, and it builds endurance and explosiveness, things I think I lack. But my football days are 30 years ago. These guys, they're in their prime. Being around great athletes, motivating. Matt Golden, Keon Coleman, Cam Akers, a lot of fun, and I posted those on my Twitter/X and my Instagram, and you can put a little music. Please, little plug here for my Instagram. Check out my reel I made. I have some tunes, a little music there, a little instrumental. A little 21 Savage. Everyone likes 21 Savage. Makes some cool beats. It's hard for me to say that Jalen will be a better slot receiver than Christian Kirk immediately. I mean, Kirk's experience makes a difference. He's played a lot of football. I think Noel has a chance to be a better guy after the catch right away. And down the road, certainly has that potential to be better than Christian Kirk. But right now, I would say Kirk would have that edge. Great question. Do I have specific goals? I always set goals for myself in terms of I want to break as many stories as I can. I want to, tell as many good stories as I can. I want to make sure that I'm working hard and I'm consistent about going to things, whether that's community events or workouts or just checking in with people on the phone, restoring contacts, making sure that I'm staying on top of things. YouTube has become a more specific goal where I'm hoping to grow the channel as large as possible. This is fun for me. It's interactive. And also, there's a monetary part of it too. It does help me. It helps my family. So there's a motivational factor. There's analytics. There's all those things that YouTube, once you reach the area where you could be monetized. And I appreciate everybody that watches, because you're literally helping me. And obviously you don't have to spend money, but it's it works because of the ads. So watching the ads, that all helps. But yeah, for everybody that's a content creator, you're helping people support their business, and you're getting the coverage. So it's kind of a cool deal, because you're getting extra coverage and more tailored to what you guys like. And for me, I mean, a chance to express myself a little longer. I do guest spots on Sports Talk 790, and I'm on KPRC on their airwaves, but it's not like this where we can talk and have this longer conversation. So we're up to about 55 minutes and change, and we'll go up to about 1 hour and 10 minutes. We'll do 70 minutes tonight, and then I'll have to wrap. But yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it. My specific goals are, I want to have as many followers as I can. I want to break as many stories as possible. I want to make sure that I'm as accurate as possible. And so when I get a chance to break some good stories, it means a lot to me. It means that my hard work is paying off. Sometimes I'll be super close. Might be something like a Jalen Petrie, where I know they're working on it. I know it's coming down, and then it becomes kind of everybody finds out around the same time. But I'm in this, I'm in the winning business. I want to win. I'm not just in it to tell you the same story as everybody else. I'm competitive, and being competitive is not a bad word. Competitive means I care about what I'm doing. I care about getting you guys the right information in a timely manner. And certainly, yeah, journalists, does someone keep score? Sure, we all know who wins, on who gets stories and all those sorts of things. All my competition they're all good. Everyone's good locally and nationally. So I have a lot of respect for them, and I know that I have to work hard, and nothing is promised to me. I have to earn it all the time to get the story. And every year we start anew. You just have to do your best. So yeah, I talk a lot about journalism because obviously that's what I love to do, and I love football, and so I have a lot of fun doing this. But it's not anything that's where it's just a handout. You earn the deals that the articles that you get. And back up a little bit. I think I was just getting off track a little. Thanks, Patty. Yeah, Nick Chubb, I think he did look like he was close. I think he had some rust, but as far as health, I thought he was close to 100%. Thanks, Cassia. Lachey and Stover, for sure. I think Stover. I don't know about Hidden Gem. I think he's well known. I thought he looked good as far as how he blocks. I don't know about Rob Gronkowski. That is probably not where they're at. Just not as big. Hi, Tristan. I don't think that those guys have the size. And then you brought up Aaron Hernandez. Just in terms of the mobility, but and his run after catch. I covered a lot of Aaron Hernandez games. I'm not going to get into the case, but obviously everybody knows what happened with that, and it's a tragedy all around with Aaron Hernandez. But great football player. He even played tailback in some games I covered when he was playing against the Ravens, and he was a heck of a running back too. This guy was an amazing athlete. I do not see, and will not be making a comparison, Tristan, between Lachey and Stover and those guys. But repeat question, Stingray, I think maybe that's your question. I think it'll be shortly before training camp. And I went into that a little bit. And there'll be a replay that we'll play tomorrow. And so we talked about that at length, about why Arion Tertiary is unsigned like the majority of the second round. And it's because of the Jaden Higgins deal and the precedent was set there as the first second-round pick in NFL history to have a fully guaranteed rookie contract for skill, meaning can't be cut for just performance and not be paid. Salary cap, can't be speak up for salary cap reasons. Injury, all protected. A great contract. Negotiated by Nick Caserio with Chris Cabot of Equity Sports, who also represents the great Patrick Mahomes. And he represents Jaden Higgins of the Texans and Graham Mertz. So he has two rookies with the Texans out of their draft class. So it looks like a good draft class to me. Guys, we have about 11 more minutes. Let's get some more questions in. That's a good question about the best shape of his life rhetoric. I mean, I have my own little opinion sometimes about someone's conditioning, explosiveness, but I generally don't know, like, well, what's your body fat percentage? What's your stride frequency? What's your lifting capacity? Sometimes players will share some things, though, like CJ Stroud, who you can kind of tell from his physique how hard he's worked on his diet and his weightlifting. He said he set personal records. Was there a follow-up to ask him, are you bench pressing, 315 or whatever he's doing? I think it's just have to take him at his word a little bit. But yeah, it's hard to know sometimes. But I can tell if a guy's not in shape. I've watched a lot of practices. Pay attention. I have a good memory of where I look at photographs, things like that. I try not to obsess about it. But yeah, you can kind of tell if someone's in better shape or not better shape. Tristan wants to know, can the Texans make it to the next level? I think that if they're healthy, they could make some noise in the playoffs. I think they're capable. We saw them beat Buffalo before. We don't know how the seeding's going to turn out, but if it's the same kind of playoff seeding as last year, then they're going to probably have to play either Kansas City or Baltimore. And if that happens, I like their chances actually of beating the Chiefs more than I like their chances of beating the Ravens. They just seem to match up better with Kansas City than Baltimore. C.J. Gardner-Johnson might be a difference maker because I think he adds some edge to the defense. I think he can certainly stop Travis Kelce. Maybe he can even stop Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. That would be good too. Those guys are very dangerous tight ends for Baltimore, notwithstanding Mark Andrews' uncharacteristic drop in the playoff game. But when I look at how he normally plays and Likely, I think it's an absolute stud and scored a touchdown in a playoff game in the past against the Ravens. That's a great tandem. I think Nico will get more of the go routes. I just feel like, there's that proven deep ball chemistry and timing on the arc of the pass and where Nico will be. I think there'll be some deep balls, but I think the majority of the targets and deep balls will go to Pro Bowl wide receiver Nico Collins. That's Ronald Blair's question. Sorry, Ronald Bison. Bysore. I'm sorry. I get a little closer. I didn't wear my eyeglasses. Jim, there's over 1,000 agents. Some of them are multiple agencies. It's all registered with the NFL Players Association. And there's just hundreds and hundreds of agents, many of whom have 0 to 2 clients. The bulk of the business is represented by the following firms. Creative Artists Agency, CAA football. They represent a lot of Texans. They also represent D'Amico Ryans for coaching. Jimmy Sexton is the coaching agent for D'Amico Ryans. And then there's the other agencies, Athletes First, which has a lion's share. Drew Rosenhaus and his agency, which has a couple of other agents work for him. Excel Sports has a lot of agents. Joe Linta's agency, JL Sports. Equity, which represents Jaden Higgins and Graham Mertz. And then, there's a ton of them, really, when you look at all the agents. And so I know most of them, deal with a variety of those guys. Sports Stars, I don't want to neglect to mention them. They have a lot of Texans, including Jimmy Ward, and just a variety of representation. Clutch Sports, another one of the big powerhouses, which is owned by LeBron James, Rich Paul, and has corporate parentship from United Talent Agency, which also represents media, including Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, all those things. Absolutely. Texans-Ravens. Big-time matchup. Can't wait to cover that game. And get a chance to go back to Baltimore. Probably get a crab cake, too, while I'm there. He's not hurt badly, guys. I would say, with Jalen Noel, it was a minor deal. It prevented him from practicing a couple of times. I think he'll be back out there. With Woody Marks, I would say they haven't really, with the way they've divvied this up, I don't know how much he's going to play. I wonder if he's going to be third down back. I think there's a chance that he'll have some role in that capacity. And I know he can catch the ball outstanding. I thought, and this was just my opinion, obviously they felt differently and they run the team. I thought they should have groomed him to be the number 2 back instead of spending money. Blake Tomlinson is the starting left guard. right now, and hasn't missed a start in several years, and they consider him reliable. And he does have a background with 49ers from when D'Amico was there, so there's some overlap. And he's a good leader, and I've heard great things about Lakin from an intangible standpoint. And yes, I think he's the starting left guard at the moment. He's fairly unchallenged. There's really no one pushing him for the job. He's the guy. A couple more here, guys. We got about 5 more minutes, and then I'll wrap up. But I really enjoyed this. Great questions from you guys, and our best chat so far. And we've got a good amount of people in here. We got a lot of comments. Yeah, thank you guys. You're right. I mean, they haven't played that well in the Baltimore game. Absolutely. Every year's new. British Brooks, if he makes it for special teams. He has made a good recovery from his knee injury. Positive feedback on that, but uphill fight to make the roster again. He's going to be he's definitely on the bubble. Like I said, we got time for a couple last questions here. We have about 4 or 5 more minutes. Don't want to leave anybody out that had a question. Don't be shy. Ask away. There are no bad questions, only bad answers. So yeah, please ask away. And I mentioned at the start some programming updates. I will have an appearance on Sports Sunday with Randy McElvoy. We're going to discuss the red zone offense, my thoughts on that, as well as Kate Stover. And so you'll see that on Sports Sunday with Randy McElvoy at 10:30 Central on KPRC2. So yeah, please give it a watch, and I hope everybody has a great 4th of July, safe 4th of July in terms of fireworks and barbecue, and yeah, just everybody enjoy. I don't know if they're going to have a different outcome, because I don't know if they figured out how to contain Lamar Jackson and stop the tight ends, and they have Zay Flowers, and they got to tackle Derrick Henry. I mean, based on the Christmas game, where I thought the bad combination of the Texans being completely flat and looking unprepared for this Christmas game, and just kind of embarrassing themselves on national TV with everybody there tuning in mostly to watch Beyonce, and a great halftime show, but yeah, on the field that was a really embarrassing display of football. They've got to play better than that. I think it'll be closer than last year. I don't think it'll look like that. Ronald, yeah, we did address that at the beginning. He's had all of his surgeries. He's had an ACL reconstruction. That was the final surgery, successfully done by Dr. Walter Lowe. First surgery also successful, where they repaired his other knee ligaments. He didn't tear every single one. He tore most of them. And I think he's definitely on track to eventually play football again, but this season does not make a lot of sense. I don't have my favorite barbecue style. I like Texas. I prefer to Carolina barbecue. I did go to East Carolina University. I like Texas barbecue. And I did go to a place called Ironworks Barbecue in Austin, Texas for lunch. It was great. I don't really eat barbecue like that frequently. I might have it a couple times a year. I think it's it's tough, man. It's a big, heavy meal, and I already have enough temptations with it, so I just don't want to eat too much barbecue. But it's great, and I like it. Truth Barbecue is one of my other ones I really like locally, but there's lots of great barbecue. I'm not really like a big barbecue person as far as like barbecue style. Just like anybody, hamburgers, hot dogs, that kind of thing. Do I talk to the players? Yes, I do. I get to interview players. I get to interview them. Sometimes I get to interview them one-on-one, have exclusives. Sometimes I interview them in a group setting. I get to ask questions and enjoy my interactions with the Texans and other players around the NFL. Today, I was talking and hanging out a little bit with Cam Akers and Keon Coleman and Matthew Golden, and those are great guys to talk to, and I wish those guys a lot of luck during the season. I think Titus can be a good right guard. I do. I think Titus is capable of being a good guard. I think that he's well suited to the position. I think it's kind of a natural thing for him to step inside a few steps from right tackle, which he's played in the past, and play the right guard spot. I think he'll be solid. Expectations of CJ. I think CJ will get back to closer to what rookie year CJ was like. I think CJ will make some progress this year. I think he'll have better pass protection and a better control of the pass protection scheme, which will lead to less confusion, lead to less people in the space and more time. I think CJ certainly can hit the targets when he has time and when they're open. We discussed Kaylee at length earlier. I think smart, young coach, bright future. Last two, guys. Best player I've ever talked to, most fun interview from personal opinion was Shannon Sharp. I covered Shannon Sharp, I covered Tony Siragusa, those guys were a lot of fun. Very interesting people. Ray Lewis, very interesting for other reasons. Just good guys to talk with. Very interesting. I've had some very good interviews here as far as like best quality players. J.J. Watt, Ray Lewis, Jonathan Ogden, Ed Reed, some of the best Hall of Famers, Andre Johnson, guys like that. I don't know if I have an opinion yet if they'll make it to the title game. I want to punt on that question for now. I think divisional round. I feel comfortable with that. I don't know about the title game. Yeah, I would say not right now. I don't anticipate it because it's got to see what's the progress. All right, let's see. Next question's the last question, guys. Let's see who gets in there. One more. Give you a minute. Let's see, we have another question here at the end. Anybody? No, I'm tempted to say Bueller, but I'm not going to. My favorite all-time movies. I think they can beat the Rams. I don't necessarily know if they will beat the Rams, but I think they can beat the Rams. I'll be at all the road games, every game. I've already booked all of my travel, with the exception of the Chargers one. I'm kind of waiting to see if they'll get, like, what day is that game going to be. So I have to build in some flexibility for myself. Do not like the flex scheduling. No one cares, obviously, about me and my plans, but I care very deeply about when schedules are made. You should stay on those days because flights are not easy to make, and then you got to get back in time, and you got a lot of work to do. But obviously, yeah, the media is like the lowest. They care about the media, about the television ratings and all that stuff. I don't know. It's so early for a score prediction, Sarah, but I'll try. I'll venture one. Texans 24, Rams 21. Kaimi Fairburn field goal indoors. They are good. They're good players, and so is Puka Nacua and Matthew Stafford. And it's going to be a good test with the Texans secondary against the Rams offense, and now they have Devontae Adams. This will be a good Week 1 football game. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you so much. There's one last question, okay? I don't know about the offensive line ranking. I think they will, let's say, middle of the pack. They were one of the worst. I think they get to where they were like, if they were an F or a D, they're going to be at least a C to a C plus this year. But they got a lot of improvement to do. They're going to get better. They're going to be better, I believe, 4 to 6 weeks into the season than they are going to be at the beginning of the season. They may have some problems with Jared Verse and guys like that. You're welcome. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate those questions there at the end from Nash. All right, guys, stay a little longer. I'm going to run. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys coming by for this live and really enjoyed this session, and we'll have another one next week. Thanks. Have a good night.